Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 9 of the subject Organizing Childcare Services and the chapter Language Development, Learning to Speak. Let's see what are the contents to be covered. What is language? Development of language, discriminating speech sounds, beginnings of speech, influences on language development, biological factors and environmental factors. Now let's see what is language. It is something we use in our everyday life. Language is a system that consists of symbols, that is words, that stand for particular objects, relationships, actions and feelings, and through which we can transmit and understand a large variety of messages. So this is something, a language is something which we use to communicate in our day-to-day life, whether in personal or in professional, whether with friends or with family members. In whichever language we are comfortable, we often speak that, or we often use that language to communicate and convey our messages in a proper and clear manner. The ability to communicate with each other using a language system is unique to human beings. Human beings have this capacity to use a language and to use it properly and in a eloquent manner so that the other person also understands what they are saying. So the usage of language is unique to human beings. Human beings have this power of using a language in their own unique ways. The functions of language. Language plays an important role in the development of thinking. It promotes thinking, it promotes cognition of an infant. The way a person learns the language or the way a child learns the language, it promotes the thinking. First, the thinking is done and then the language is a medium to convey whatever is being taught. Our memory and perception are also influenced by language. Whatever we retain and whatever we see, our viewpoint, our own perception, that is also being influenced by the way we speak and the way we communicate. Language also helps in concept formation since it gives a label for a set of objects. It also helps us in forming concepts of different objects, of different events, of different human beings, as it helps in concept formation since it is a label. It represents certain things, it represents certain objects and persons. For example, the name of a person, that represents the identity of a person, so that the child or a human being learns. How the development of language takes place? To learn a language, the child must hear people speak and be able to discriminate between the different speech sounds and words. The child must hear people speak here and there and be able to discriminate between different speech sounds, loud, soft, low, and different words, the kind of words which are used and the tone with which the words are expressed. He or she must also be able to produce sounds and gradually learn to combine these sounds to produce words, that is to acquire language. Whenever the sounds are combined, these produce words. So the child must also be able to produce words. The child must also be able to gradually learn and use these speech sounds so that a language, a proper language is formed through which the child is able to communicate his or her emotions to the family members. Discriminating speech sounds. The infant is able to hear at birth and can localize the sound source. That is, he or she can make out from which direction the sound is coming. The infants can make out from which direction a particular sound is coming and they can hear at birth and they can localize, they can form their own mental directions that from where the sound of a particular thing is coming. Her ability to hear and perceive the direction of sound improves with age. Perceiving the direction, hearing, listening power, that obviously improves when the child grows. Newborns can discriminate the mother's voice from other voices as early as the first week of life, as newborns are attached with mothers. So they can discriminate the mother's voice from other voices, as the mother's voice is the most warmest for a newborn or an infant. So they can discriminate their mother's voice as early as the first week of life from other people's voices. Newborns move their body in rhythm with adult speech as early as 12 hours after birth. So after birth, as early as 12 hours, they can move their body with the way the adult make speech sounds. Beginnings of speech. Language development of all children follows a certain sequence. This means that there are stages in the learning of language that are universal. There are some stages in the learning of the language that is universally accepted and that is universally learned by all children around. So this is how the language development takes place. First, by discriminating between various sounds, and it proceeds from there on. This means that all children go through the some stages while acquiring language, and they do so at approximately the same ages, irrespective of the language they speak. Irrespective whether they speak Hindi, English or any other language, they acquire the language approximately at the same ages. So it is universal that the children learn the language at approximately around the same age. The stages in language acquisition. Crying. The earliest form of communication that a child uses is crying. A small child, a newborn, an infant cannot speak, but it can cry and communicate the message, whether the child is not feeling comfortable or whether the child is hungry or whatever. Crying is the earliest and the easiest form of communication that a child uses to communicate. Next is cooing. Around 1 month of age, babies begin to make cooing sounds in addition to crying. This stage lasts till 4 to 5 months after birth. Cooing is a vowel-like sound, particularly like oo. So this is a sound which again a child uses till 4 to 5 months after birth to say or to express one's emotions, or by seeing a particular object or being in a particular, or when the surrounding or when the environment of the child is changed. Babbling. Between 6 and 10 months, the infant begins to babble. She repeats syllables like ma, de, ki and ni over and over again, so that we can hear sounds like dada, b, ki, ma, ma. This is referred to as babbling, where an infant is learning to create the speech sounds and also different small initials, and to combine those initials, the infant is making sounds. The infant is babbling, is repeating syllables like ma, de, ki, ba, ni. All these syllables, a particular syllable or various syllables are used by a child to communicate or to express his or her feelings. The first words. Sometimes between 10 and 12 months, often around the first birthday, the infant says the first word. The first word can be anything, father, mother, or could be anything. So between 10 and 12 months, when the child has a first birthday, the infant says the first word. Influences on language development. So what are the influences on language development? Biological factors. The following 3 facts point that we are biologically predisposed to acquire language. We have this in our genes to acquire different languages. Firstly, the human body, as you have read, is equipped for the purpose of speaking, hearing and understanding language. The human body, the human beings are equipped for speaking, hearing, listening and understanding, as well as acquiring different languages. Secondly, all newborns are most responsive to the sound of the human voice, which shows that we have an inborn ability to learn a language. When a small baby or a newborn is responsive to the sound of different human voices, that really shows that a person from birth has an inborn ability to learn and acquire a language. Thirdly, all children go through the same stages while acquiring language, and they do so at approximately the same ages. So this concept is universal. Next is environmental factors. When the infant is around 4 to 5 months of age, the caregivers begin to show them toys and household objects. So environmental factors comes when the infant reaches 4 to 5 months, and then the caregivers to keep the child busy, they begin to show toys, household objects or other fancy objects to make the child occupied and to fascinate the child. By 6 to 7 months, the infant also begins to point at objects, picks them up and shows them to people. By that time, the infant also gains understanding of a particular object. He or she can pinpoint an object, pick them up, kick them and shows them to other people, which an infant likes. By the time the infant is 7 to 8 months old, the family members also begin to talk about what is going on around the child. So by the time the infant reaches 7 to 8 months, the family members also begin to talk about the surroundings and about the different things and about different events happening around the child and again around the family members. So they begin on talking about what will the child do, in which school the child will go, and the behavior of the child with other people he or she would interact with. So influences on language development. Remember, lullabies and songs are a delightful part of the caregiver-child relationship. Whenever a child is sleeping, a lullaby is sung or different songs are sung to make the child delightful and to make the child happy, so that a child can also fall asleep and be peaceful. So when children are around 9 to 10 months of age, parents and relatives begin to play language games with them. When children reach 9 to 10 months of age, parents, relatives and other family members begin to play different language games with them, so that a child would acquire language in a proper manner, would learn a language, small words, small sentences the child would learn. That is why language games in a playway method, in a fun way, are played with children so that they can learn. And adults should also come to know how much a child is grasping and how much a child is able to learn a language and to respond to them. So that is why these various fun activities are done with them. So this was all about learning a language and making a child acquainted with the language, and also to be responsive when different speech sounds and when different voices are made, and to also discriminate, and when a child speaks and when a child hears other voices, the child also discriminates the mother's voice from the other voices of the family members. That's all we have in it for you. So these are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. Define what we mean by the term language. How does language help us? Question number 2. What evidence is there to show that the child has an inborn sensitivity to human speech and can discriminate speech sounds? That's all we have for you in this session. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.